And welcome back here this week in pro football. Just looking at some of the chat. Thanks very much, guys, for joining in this chat. And you guys are right. Please hit that like button. Hit that like button about 40,000 times. I'd appreciate that very much. I appreciate having this gentleman on. And that would be the author of Finished Business, the author of the Eagles Encyclopedia, longtime contributor on Comcast Sportsnet. Of course, back when I was a young guy, a writer for the Philadelphia Bulletin, the Daily News. That would be, of course, the excellent Reid. Didinger. Ray, how are you?
I'm fine, Pat. How are you doing?
All right. Thanks for joining me, Ray. And congratulations on a very successful run of the play Tommy and Me. Outstanding. I hope lots of people watching this show got to see it, Ray. So good on that. I know you're working on another one, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm working on another one, and we've got the run that you came to out at People's Light Theater out in Malvern. We just closed on Saturday after pretty much a full month run, and it went great. We sold the house out every night, and it went so well that the theater had told us they want us back next year. So we'll be back in Malvern in 2026, and really looking forward to that.
Well done. Good for you. All right, Ray, let's get started. I got a ton of things to ask you, so let's get going. What do you think has propelled the Super Bowl to be such an unbelievable, all-encompassing media event? And I'm saying as opposed to, say, the other three major sports in the United States.
Well, I think it sort of dovetails with the growth and popularity of just professional football in general. I think over these I guess going on 60 years now, we've seen the sport of professional football just explode and go past everybody else. So it stands to reason that their championship game would too. But I think one of the big draws to it is it's just one game. It's not best of 5. It's not best of 7. Right. The World Series, the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup. Right. It's best of 7, right. Which is dramatic. Yeah. We always talk about that. Yeah. But Super Bowl, it's one game. And everything's on the line in that one game. And I think that's pretty compelling. That's pretty compelling drama. Right. And, we went through a long stretch there, like in the 80s, when the games weren't very good, which was a shame. I mean, they actually, the games became kind of anticlimactic. But that hasn't been the case lately. I mean, over the last couple of decades, the Super Bowl games have been really, really good games. Yeah. Like the one we saw just a couple of years ago with the Eagles and the Chiefs.
Yeah, it has been. You're right. It's been very engrossing the last couple of years. And Ray, I don't expect anything different in this game. I really don't. It's the line has stayed very close all week long. But these two teams, I don't think the country's going to watch it. I don't think they're terribly excited about it because, the Eagles are not as popular as they should be, is my opinion. The Chiefs, I think there's a serious amount of fatigue against Kansas. But if you would, Ray, just talk about this Eagles team now, this 2024 version of the Eagles. You have seen Eagles teams, you and I have seen them going all the way back to the mid-'60s, and we have seen some real buttes going 2-12 or 2-11-1 or whatever in front of a packed house at Franklin Field. Where does this team rank among the most talented teams that you've seen covering the Eagles?
In terms of the overall talent on the roster, this is probably the best, top to bottom, I think. I think that if you look back over the entire history of the franchise, which I'm kind of doing now because I'm rewriting the Eagles Encyclopedia in anticipation of the fact that if the Eagles do win this game, we're going to have to come out with an all-new edition. So I've been digging through the history, and I'm still kind of at the point where I was a long time ago. I think the 49 team is probably the greatest team they've ever had. Yeah. I mean, that was the team that won the second of the back-to-back world championships. Right. Van Buren was at his peak. Bednarik was a rookie on that team. And they were 11-1 during the season. And if you look at the point differential, how much they outscored their opponents by that year, just ridiculous in that era of football. Yeah. So I think that, to me, right now stands as the best team in Eagles history. But if these guys complete the journey on Sunday and they win this game, and dethrone the two-time world champions, you can make a pretty strong case that maybe this team is number one.
All right, Ray, following up on that, then I asked Sal Pal earlier in the show if it was even conceivable that this Eagle team, which is just such a gaudy record and has played so incredibly well all season long, might be considered a failure if they don't win this game Sunday. His answer was yes, they will be. What's your take on that?
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that. No. I mean, if it's down to one game, and you're playing the two-time defending world champion. I mean, does anybody? I mean, people are tired of the Chiefs. I mean, I totally get that. But do people not respect what this team has accomplished? I mean, the Eagles they're taking on a team that's a freaking dynasty. I mean, that's what they are. I mean, you can not like them if you choose not to. If you can say what you want to say about Mahomes, and you're tired of Taylor Swift. I get all that, but I mean, you look at what they've done over the last half dozen years. I mean, they rank with the best teams of all time. So if the Eagles come up short against them on Sunday, the idea that their season was a failure, no, I don't buy that at all.
Well, I mean, let's contextualize it a little more. Throughout your years on Comcast Sportsnet, your ear was to the ground as well as anybody in the greater Philadelphia area. I mean, let's face it, it's a demanding sports town, and it's a town that has been fired up by this team all season long, and it's just hitting, it's crescendoing right now. You don't think that the reaction would be intensely negative on the team if, in fact, they don't bring that Lombardi Trophy home Sunday?
Wouldn't be for me. I mean, everybody's free to draw their own conclusions from it. Right. But I mean, they are underdogs. I mean, it's not like the Houston Texans came out of the AFC and that's who you're playing here, and you're a 6-point favorite and you lose that game. Well, yeah, then maybe you could look at the season as a failure. But I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, the Chiefs are. I mean, you look at what this team has accomplished. You look at the players. I mean, they got the best quarterback in a generation. They got one of the great coaches ever. A guy that by the time his career is over is likely to hold all the records. No, I don't see. Look, if the Eagles were to lose, I guess it depends to some degree in the manner in which they lose. If they go down there and they get, and they lose 48-7.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, maybe we can have that discussion, but I don't see it being that kind of a game. I think it's going to be a tight into the fourth quarter kind of game, a lot like the game 2 years ago. Right. And if you lose that kind of game to a team that has the kind of history that the Chiefs do, you gave it your best shot and you came up short, but I don't think there's any disgrace in that.
All right. I mean, I think that's totally fair assessment. I do. I'm just obviously well attuned to how fickle the fan base could be here. But
let's put it this way, Pat. Let's compare that to the end of the last Phillies season.
Right.
Okay. Phillies won the National League East. Okay.
Right.
But how do people feel when they look back on that season? How are they going to say, "Wow, we won the NFC East"?
No question.
No. I mean, you're going to say, "God, we got in the playoffs and we fell on our face against the stinking Mets." Yeah. That was a season that on paper looks like a success, but feels like a failure.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think you're dealing in that kind of a situation here.
I appreciate the distinction. I do. But I just think that the performances of so many individual Eagles, such as Saquon and the rookies and the guys that Howie Roseman has drafted, it's just they've all hit such a peak. But okay. I want to talking here with Ray Didinger. Ray, let me get to the other sideline here for just a minute. And how can you not be impressed with the job that Coach Reid has done? Not just with the Chiefs, anybody who's got Patty Mahomes. Now, Reid deserves credit for trading up to get him because he saw, I think, what Mahomes could do. But, I mean, this is a guy who's only 46 behind Don Shula for taking over the all-time number of coaching wins in NFL history. He's only 3 behind Bill Belichick for most postseason wins. And he would join Bill Belichick and Chuck Noll as the only coaches to win 4 Super Bowls. How does this guy do it?
Those of us that followed him for the 14 seasons he was in Philadelphia appreciate the way the guy prepares, the way he coaches, the way he develops players. I thought watching him over the course of his time in Philadelphia, I was very impressed by just the way he went about business. I mean, I've always felt that I could go to a training camp or a football practice and watch a team for 3 or 4 days and have a pretty good sense of what kind of a season they're going to have, just by how the coach runs the practice, how well organized it is, how they drill the players. Is there a lot of wasted time? Is there a lot of fooling around? Is there a lot of nonsense that goes on? Or when they go out there, do they make the most efficient use of the time they have? And with Andy Reid's team, you saw that right from day one, that this was a guy that was incredibly well organized. And you saw that with that team. I mean, he took over a team that was in pretty bad shape in '99 and had them in the playoffs in year 2. So I thought in terms of building a program and developing a program, I thought that he was an outstanding coach, which he demonstrated over that period of time. Once he got them to that level, he was able to keep them there, which the NFL makes it very hard for you to do. I think that now, to be honest with you, this Andy 2.0 that we're now dealing with in Kansas City, I think is far better in terms of game management than the Andy we had in Philadelphia. Andy's shortfall as a coach during his time with the Eagles was handling within the game.
Yes.
Was handling time,
timeouts. I agree. Timeouts, down and distance. You're certainly right.
I mean, all of that criticism was entirely valid, and especially in some big games. That's not so true anymore. And I thought that, and this is a very painful thing to say in Philadelphia, but I thought the second half of that Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl 2 years ago might have been the best 30 minutes of coaching in Andy Reid's career.
Yeah.
That he came out 10 points down, comes out in the second half with a quarterback playing on one leg, and by running the ball and by drawing up some new pass plays, he winds up winning the game and managed the clock beautifully, saved all of his timeouts for when he needed them. It was a masterclass in coaching in that game, and I think that's kind of where Andy is right now. And when you talk about the great coaches in NFL history,
yeah, I know.
He's right there.
He is, and it's funny. I mean, I talk all the time about it. Nick Sirianni doesn't get a lot of respect. Reid, really, I mean, when you think about the chiseled visage of Chuck Noll, or of course Lombardi, or Shola with the iron jaw, and along comes Andy Reid, looking like the guy from the Kool-Aid pitcher, and yet he's going to be right up there, if not at the very top. It's an amazing thing. All right, Ray Didinger, how do you see it going? Give me your take on this game. Do you see a different outcome than that which we saw 2 years ago?
I think the game is going to be very similar. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think there's going to be a lot of big plays, and I think it's going to be close in the fourth quarter. I just feel like that's the way it's going to be. Now, I think this Eagles team, is better than the team of 2 years ago. I think Barkley obviously gives you a whole different dimension on offense, and the personnel, especially that you have in your defensive secondary, far better than what you had 2 years ago, which to me really increases the Eagles' chances of winning. But there's nothing original here in me saying this, but if it's a close game in the fourth quarter, man, if it's close with 5 minutes to go and Mahomes has got the ball in his hands, that's trouble. That
will be trouble. I certainly agree with that, but I think the Eagles are going to win it. I do. I just think their talent is substantial, and I do think they are going to win this game. I mean, I don't know.
Well, we talked about it, and I find myself kind of leaning that way too, because I do think that they're a better team. I think that their speed on defense, their physical play on defense, I think is far better than it was 2 years ago. And I think, I mean, a combination of that offensive line and Barkley is that's hard to do.
It is. It's hard to beat. It certainly is. Yep. If there's one area the Chiefs lack, it's they just don't have a real stud in that backfield. And I don't think Reid really places a high premium on it, to tell you the truth. But God knows what his offenses would look like if he had a guy like Barkley in there. But it's interesting. We'll see how that evolves. But all right, Ray, I'm sorry. The time just flew by. But I appreciate you taking the time. And I'd love that. Somehow I'll find you during the off season and we'll chat about this. And good luck writing that encyclopedia again. Oh my God. I heard you come up with an estimate like 95,000 words or some ungodly number like that.
My projection is 95. I've got to crank out 95,000 words between now and March 7th.
Oh my God, Ray. All right. Well, you better stop talking. You better stop talking and start writing. But
no, I listen. The bad part is the book only comes out if they win.
Okay.
So I have a deep rooting interest.
Okay, fair enough. Ray, thanks very much for taking the time, pal. I appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you again.
Always a pleasure, Pat. Take care. Bye-bye.
Right, thank you very much, Ray Didinger, joining me there. I can't wait to talk to this next gentleman. That would be the great Mike Sando from The Athletic. Mike is in New Orleans. He covers every Super Bowl. So we'll get his take and ask him about did Howie Roseman engineer one of the best off seasons ever. We'll do that next to wrap up a Super Bowl edition of This Week in Pro Football.